potentially be the new name of our show, Tic Tac Toe Radio Show.
What does that mean?
We're talking about there's 3 of us, you know. I don't know. I'll get to it. I'll get to it in a little bit. As always, 4J Sports Radio Show brought to you by Big Al Sports Palace. Stop by tonight or call them up for delivery, 201-858-1075. Coming up on the show tonight, Leo Hurley and Brian Duffy will be in studio as guest judges to round out the second round of the Bayonne Bar bracket going on. Had some pretty much rock chalk all the way through.
Yeah. The Bayonne St. Patty's Day Parade commentators.
That's right. That's right.
It's coming up on the 23rd this Sunday.
Yeah, we'll ask them about that. Ask them what their plans are for the parade.
Get their Irish on.
Now, what do you think? We have a 14A contingent or what? Is that doable?
Yeah, I believe so. But you know how it always goes. Like, I always start off downtown. Nips will be downtown with me. You always start off uptown.
I meant in the parade. Like marching in the parade.
Doubtful this year.
Maybe that's something we'll work on next year.
The friendly sons of 14A Sports.
I mean, we're not even famous at home. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, whatever.
You don't have to be famous.
That's true.
We'll also get a little banner. We'll just walk around.
Yeah, just walk around.
A banner? You want to walk around with a banner?
Get the video camera going.
Those beer helmets.
So,
all right, Viking helmet.
Right.
We got the Bayonne Bar bracket coming up tonight. I'll run down the NCAA tournaments in the second segment. Also got some interesting news out there with Phil Jackson and the Knicks, the Jets and the Giants free agency. But let's kick it off as always. We've always got a little bit of controversy, as I like to call it. Mully doesn't think it's such controversy.
It's not.
But when the brackets come out each year, you get a lot of teams that are stiffed. You get a lot of teams that were put in a place where they shouldn't have been. I guess the big theme of this year is Louisville at the 4 seed in the Midwest.
Yeah. Louisville, Nova, both getting 4s. Nova
got a 2.
Yeah. Oh, Nova got a 2. Louisville,
Michigan State.
Michigan State, right, wins the Big Ten, and now here they are on the 4. You know what? I don't think that's a snub to Louisville. I take that more as a snub to Wichita State. Undefeated season. I think Louisville's 4 seed was a punishment for that conference.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that the tournament committee, gave any respect to that conference at all. The AAC is pretty much a one-and-done conference, and I don't think they gave them any respect. But if I'm Wichita State, I just run through an undefeated season, and granted, not in the most difficult conference, but still, that bracket's loaded. You go 1 through 4, you go Wichita State, Duke, Michigan, Louisville. I mean, that's unbelievable. Yeah. That's a bomb squad.
Never mind, you got a second-round matchup with Kentucky and Kansas State, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that Kentucky team who coming into the year, I don't know if you remember the kids down in Lexington were making, 40-0 T-shirts, thinking that squad was going to roll undefeated. Julius Randle, anytime the underdog team has the best player on the court, always have a shot. Absolutely. So, and Walsh likes to, we were talking earlier, and he was saying, the seeding controversy. And it's not a controversy because it happens every year. There's always teams that think they should be better, shouldn't be better. I know the general consensus that Louisville should have been, but I think they just got punished for their conference. So I wouldn't call it a controversy, but, a loaded bracket out there with Wichita State in the 1. And I think, they got the worst part. They got the worst part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's more of a talking point for people on ESPN, people on, whatever, all the
14A Sports.
Yeah, 14A Sports for us, us people in the sports analyst industry.
Right,
right. But, yeah, I mean, Louisville's in it. I mean, if there were 4 or 1, does it really change a lot of things? If there were 4 versus a 2, is Louisville going to complain because they didn't get to the finals because they lost to a team that they would have had to play eventually down the line anyway?
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying for Louisville. I don't think a 4 versus 2 or 4 versus 3 isn't a huge deal. But for Wichita State playing Louisville, that might be the hottest team in the country coming into this game, Rusticulous playing bananas.
Oh, yeah.
They have a second-round matchup with them, and that's tough as a 1 seed, man. That really is.
I think it's a little bananas how you got Villanova as a 2 seed who didn't even win their conference tournament. They got beat in the first game that they played in the tournament against lowly Seton Hall. You got that. Wisconsin, they don't, granted they have a decent season. I don't know enough for a 2, but, they get bounced out in the tournament. Not even the finals of their conference tournament. So I think it's just controversial from the aspect of, these are the teams that got the 2 seeds, or these are the teams that got the 3 seeds, and then the ones that got the 4s. Like Villanova, I think they beat Kansas earlier in the year, right?
Villanova?
Yes.
I believe that was the case. So,
had a tough loss to Seton Hall in the conference tourney, though.
Yeah. And, how do they get that number 2? And if you want to say Louisville has a weak conference, you could look at that Big East this year and say that was just as bad.
Yeah.
I think Mully pointed to it, but I think, a lot of the picks that they do, it's an RPI ranking that really can really hurt or help a team. I think Louisville was like 18th overall or something like that, which I think really brought them down. Whereas I think Wisconsin gets the bump for playing in the Big Ten. Also, they're out of conference schedule. Also, Villanova, some of the big wins they had. It's really about kind of who you played and who you beat. If you didn't, put up a big name on that schedule, it's going to hurt you when it comes to tournament time.
Well, here's the one thing, and again, I wouldn't call it a controversy, but a lot of times the tournament rewards teams that come in hot, right? Teams that win their conference, right?
Sure.
And they didn't do that this year. Louisville and Michigan State both getting those fours. So we're going to be surprised that NCAA did stupid stuff? Like, not in the least.
Yeah.
No one knows how they even picked the teams. So it is what it is, and what it comes down to, you got to win 6 games, right? Regardless of who you play, when you play them, they're in your bracket. You got to beat them. You got to play them and beat them.
Yeah, beat the man in front of you.
So that's what you got to do.
I'm looking at Villanova's schedule here this year. A couple of the key wins I get: Kansas, Iowa. Who the hell else here? And that's that's really it.
They lost to Creighton twice, right?
They beat Butler.
Yeah, they lost to Creighton twice.
They got their whole blown out by Creighton twice. Creighton probably had the 2 best shooting performances ever in a college game against Villanova.
McBuckets.
They lose to Syracuse. They beat St. Joe's, another tournament team. But again, I don't value them as a 2 seed. Fair enough. Be it as it may. In the next segment, we'll talk about who we think's gonna advance to the Final Four and some upsets we should look at.
Just real quick, without getting into specifics, how difficult or how easy did you find your Final Four teams? Did you struggle? I know it's never easy, right? But did you like teams and the matchups that they had going to the Final Four?
I kind of, it's funny because I see that every single
Louisville,
person
Michigan State,
doing
right?
a bracket has, not necessarily Louisville, but Michigan State. And you look at the region that they're in, and I think you can see why people like Michigan State. Right. But I like another team in there. We'll get into it a little earlier. Okay. But just the fact that everybody likes Michigan State makes me very weary of
probably Virginia, the weakest 1 seed in that there. Right. So
yeah, but I mean, the one tournament,
they deserved it. No, 100%.
So and they beat Duke, who probably would have got number 1 if they won the conference championship. But yeah, no, I felt this year I was kind of looking at it and I was kind of pretty comfortable with the top 2. Every year you try to be like, oh, who's going to be like that weird team or whatever. This year I'm just going to go with favorites,
Chalk.
Yeah, I mean not all 1 seeds, but for the most part, you have the Wichita State, you have the VCUs every year, but for the most part, a lot of the teams that get there are going to be the top 4 seeds.
Absolutely.
So I was going to look at it from that perspective and kind of see what team I liked and kind of pick through that. So I liked Zona, I liked Florida. The Michigan State, the Louisville brackets are a little tougher to pick. Mm-hmm. I haven't actually gone through a whole bracket yet, but I don't think I'm going to have a lot of issue with picking out of 8 teams that I like.
Or you can just go the Obama route and just pick all the favorites all the way up to the Final Four.
I think he's been president for 6-7 years. Every time he filled out a bracket, I think he had 4 1 seeds as a Final Four.
It does make sense.
If only foreign policy was that simple.
Mr. President. All right, keep it on the basketball theme. Keep it local. Phil Jackson gets named as president of basketball operations for the New York
Billy
Knicks.
Jack's coming home.
And I love
I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
Now, this one actually makes sense for the song instead of the one from Ella.
Yeah, he lived in Brooklyn until he was 3, so whatever. I like that song.
Well, it's a good pump up song.
Yeah,
I'm
a fan of
a lot of montages for sports.
What get pumped up to what? Bake cookies?
What? Yeah.
I like that girl's voice.
I'm coming.
What are you gonna do?
And then P. Diddy comes in the background.
Back where I belong. What if my son asks me about their moms?
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
That's why I haven't been home in so long.
He's coming home.
So the funny
I'm pumped.
The funny thing with the Knicks is that they keep this what the press conference is about all week for no reason. We all know Phil Jackson getting introduced, but they got to keep it some big mystery. Ridiculous. This is the New York Knicks. This is New York Knicks basketball.
They already had his T-shirt in the team store when they had the press conference ready.
Oh, in the Knicks team store they had it up?
Yeah, like the old Phil Jackson, from 18 with Jackson on the back. From
Probably runs
days.
you $50 for a pair of wristbands or something.
I said it last week. I would be really happy if Phil Jackson was here. Speaking as a Knicks fan, and I'm just as excited as I was last week. And everything that he said to the fact of kind of it's a team game, trying to build something here. And trying to going all in and trying to work from what we have. I mean, it might be baby steps at first, but let's get on this. Let's hopefully try to get Melo on our plans. Let's see what we can do. And I mean, this season's still going on, and I know they still have a chance to make the playoffs. A little bit of an
very
outside,
vague one, but okay,
an outside shot. But hopefully we'll see if they can make a late run. Make this season a little interesting. Then it'll be. I mean, they got a big game tonight versus Indiana.
Yeah. Trying to keep the 7-game win streak alive, or the 6-game win.
All the excitement aside, I mean, he is handcuffed a little bit, especially for this year coming up. He's going to have to get guys at a discount for sure for this year if he has any free agents or guys that are not the big name guys that we're always talking about. But 15 will be a big year, and also what happens with Melo will be another big thing. So he has a tough road to hoe, but. I think he can do it.
The Phil Jackson signing is already paying dividends. They're beating the Pacers 10-9 right now.
Oh, my God.
He was apparently going to
give
the
home.
The pregame speech in spite of Here's what it comes down to with Phil Jackson.
Oh, you're cutting out again.
God damn it.
Here.
Do you want to channel what you were going to say through us?
No, real quick. What, did it get disconnected? All right. No, there's no downside.
Right. Oh, boy.
Switch.
There we go.
We'll do it live.
There's no downside to Phil Jackson. Now, like Nips, you said, he's not walking into a great situation. However, who would you rather have, Phil Jackson with 13 rings trying to put it together, or Jim Dolan and Steve Mills, who Steve Mills was up at that press conference just sitting there looking like an idiot. I don't know what the point or purpose of him was, but, I'd much rather have Jackson giving it a shot and I don't know if he's going to be able to attract free agents more so than anybody else, but he has much more clout than anyone else, and he knows, what it takes to build and win a championship. Now, Michael Jordan's not walking through that door. Kobe Bryant's not walking through that door, but if I'm a Knicks fan, I'd much rather have Phil Jackson pulling the strings than anybody else that was involved. So, to me, it's a home run. He may not be successful because he's in a tough spot. They don't have a first-round pick in 14 or 16. After 15, their cap situation looks much friendlier. But this upcoming year, they're probably going to be brutal again. So I think next year needs to be a somewhat development year. You got to bring Melo back now, I think. But it has to be about developing it. Like Shumpert, he was supposed to take the leap this year.
Sure.
And he's been brutal. Now, I attribute that to poor coaching because the kid obviously showed he has talent, right? So, they didn't develop him as a player. Yeah. So whoever, I think it's a foregone conclusion Woodson's gone, right? I think that's a no-brainer.
See ya, Urban Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying Mr. Number One was talking about it today.
Steve Kerr?
Saying he got a text when Phil Jackson's story first broke. His friend texted him, said, if Jackson comes to town, Kerr is the coach.
Kerr's
the
guy?
Write it down today. So, but yeah, I agree. I mean, they do have talent on this roster. I mean, Sotomayor is a good player. Chandler is a good player. J.R. Smith, 6th man of the year. Hardaway shows he can play.
Right.
Shumpert has ability. I mean, they can put something together that with what they have now. It might not be, a championship team, but it's definitely a playoff talent.
Especially in the East.
This
because
is embarrassing that this team is not in the playoffs right
100%.
now. I don't know what happened behind closed doors, whatever happened behind the scenes with Woodson, or, all the controversy with, is he going to get fired, blah, blah, blah. But this team has talent. If they can keep Melo, I see them going places.
Absolutely. And this is just a flat-out credibility move here. I mean, you bring Phil Jackson into the mix. You got to do it. You got to get some credibility going there on 7th Ave. Great move. Did you hear this story about Iman Shumpert, too, where the trade was all set to go down for Collison, and then
he got hurt.
Yeah, and then they had to put him in the lineup because they had no more healthy bodies. They put Shump in the lineup. He gets hurt. Trade.
Oh, so that trade was done.
Yeah. It was ready to go. Ready to go, and then he got hurt.
I know they were talking about it, but at last minute it kind of fell apart, I guess, because of that. But I'm glad they kept Shumpert. I was happy about that, actually. So
yeah, Shumpert's a good player.
But Phil Jackson,
he plays defense. You can never have enough of those.
There's nothing but upside there. Will he be successful? I don't know, but he's better than any alternative that was available. So we'll see how he works going forward. But definitely a smart basketball move.
All right, and as we get to football, coming up on the draft soon, free agencies got kicked off over in the last week or two. The New York Giants have just bent the Jets over and kicked them right in the hiney during free agency season so far. The Jets had DRC in the building this week or over the weekend. They can't get a deal signed with him. He goes right across town over the Giants complex, and he signs himself a deal.
Welcome to the championship, DRC.
So, in your mind, what do the Jets have to do right now to salvage this offseason?
Well, first, let me start. It's not the Jets versus the Giants, right? They're not even the same conference. I know they're in the same town, but they're not really competing against each other. With DRC, they didn't want to pay him, right? If they wanted to pay him and offer him the contract, they would have. And they let him get out of the building without offering a contract. So, it's not a Jets versus Giants issue. But the Giants have done an incredible job thus far. They really have. I didn't think they had that much cap room to be able to bring just even this many bodies in. Never mind some of the bigger contracts they did give out with DRC. But Jerry Reese plugging the holes, man, and that's what he's doing in free agency, which hopefully is going to allow him, at 12 spot in the draft and moving forward in the later rounds to actually pick the best players available to create that quality depth that the Giants in the last season or two really have definitely been missing. So it seems like they're loading up a little bit. Coughlin obviously on a hot seat. John Mara didn't like what was going on at the end of last year. Whole new offensive staff. It seems like the Giants they're gearing up. They're ready to make a move in this division.
All in.
And this division is ripe for the taking, right? How good are the Eagles? I think Nick Foles played over his head last year. I think Sproles is a great addition to that Eagle team, which is a little scary. But the Redskins are still a mess in transition. The Cowboys, who knows what's up with them. So that division is ripe for the taking. So I love what the Giants have done thus far. My only thing, I don't love what they did with the center position. This Walton dude, I would have rather one of the more established guys. The Bucks signed,
Dietrich.
Right. But hats off to Jerry Reese in his free agency. He's done a tremendous job.
Yeah, at the same time, they did lose Tuck, which was actually a surprise for me. I didn't see that one coming. They lost Nix, which wasn't a surprise, but obviously the market for Nix was not what he thought it was.
Yeah.
Considering the fact he only got a 1-year deal. But yeah, they definitely said, what are our issues? Offensive line, linebacker, secondary, and they addressed
running back
as well. They addressed a ton of those issues. Free agency's not over yet. The Jets are still talking about maybe bringing Vic in.
Yep.
But if I'm a Jets fan, I'm upset. You had Rodgers, Cromartie there. They need help in the secondary unless you want to roll out there with Kyle Wilson and D. Milner. And you had a ton of cap space. But I guess this is Idzik. This is his. This is how he's going to handle free agency. They
like to say he's very methodical. I like to look at methodical as being lazy.
The people in the NFL say that he's a pain in the ass to deal with. He won't budge on deals and stuff like that. So I guess we'll see what happens during. It's not about winning the offseason. It's about what happens when the season starts. What happens. So
well, I'll tell you, if I'm a Jet fan, specifically what they've done with the secondary, right? They cut Cromartie. Okay, they cut bait with him. But the quarterback free agent class was probably one of the deepest positions in free agency. The Jets with obvious needs, they're going to go right now on paper. They're going with D. Milner and Kyle Wilson. Who Kyle Wilson maybe is a third corner at best. You wouldn't even give him that spot, right? So that was their weakest area. And, their boy Revis gets cut and winds up with the arch rival Patriots, which, as a Jet fan, I'm sure that's there's nothing worse than that.
Sits so well in the city.
Cromartie, Rodgers Cromartie, is he, he's better than Kyle Wilson, let me say that. And like you said, they had him in the building. So they failed to address a glaring need at the secondary position. And they have the money to do it. So that's the one area. If I'm a Jet fan, I'm not happy about.
That's the most striking thing is that they have the money to do it, and they're not doing anything with that money. Eric Decker, the big signing. They need a wide receiver. Okay, great, but he's a white wide receiver.
You're telling me the Jets couldn't use Manningham? Who the Giants scooped up on a 1-year deal?
Yeah, they could have.
Even a guy like a Brandon LaFell. Somebody
felt like James
NFL,
Jones would have fit there.
Steve Smith was out there. What are you doing with him? Let him go to the Ravens. You gotta.
Well, I think a lot of times we get
You're not rolling this cap over the next year.
In doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff. And I think giving those long-term deals gets you in trouble. And they're going to have to pay some guys, Mo Wilk and Copels and Sheldon Richardson down the line. And so they can't tie up all their money. But you're right. There are some one-year, patches you could fill to, use this year's space without having long-term ramifications. And really, they haven't done much. But it's a long off season. There's still guys out there. But that cornerback position got snatched up very quickly. And
sure did.
Really, the only guy who's left, Antonio Cromartie, who they already cut with, right? So
I guess they could sign him back on a cheaper deal, but I don't know. I mean, he didn't have a great season last year.